Curry and Associates. And we have Dr. Weldon Gilcrease, Deputy Director of Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting. So thank you both for joining us here. To set the stage, I just want to play a quick clip here from today's hearing on China's war on religion. Listen.
China fears religious freedom far more than they fear our aircraft carriers or our nuclear weapons. They're far more concerned. They spend billions of dollars annually harassing everybody up and down this line here.
You know, David, I'll start with you today. And that clip really resonated. I mean, Ambassador Brownback later went on to say that the Chinese regime is more afraid of losing control than anything else. So do you think this is the main reason for its war on religion?
Absolutely. He's absolutely right. Ambassador Brownback is correct, because the Communist Party fears anything which challenges its preeminence in the hearts and minds of its people. And of course, they have desires to have larger territory, to try to control the world with their ideology. Their ideology is preeminent in their mind. So 100 million Christians in China are oppressed for their faith, not because they're bad citizens, but because their ideology is that the communists are not the most important thing in their world, but their faith is. And you could go right down the list. They persecute Muslims, Uyghur Muslims, others, as well as you heard in this report. So they are threatened by any ideology that challenges them, or any personality. You remember Jack Ma and some of these entrepreneurs who got too big, they'll get cut off at the knees. So it's a challenge around ideology and preeminence in China.
Okay, so Weldon, let me go to you now. Your reaction to the clip and what David said. Why is it that it looks like the CCP and religion cannot coexist?
Yeah, I mean, at its core, at its roots, communism is based on an atheistic ideology that uses control, uses fear and intimidation to carry out its control. So, you know, for me, it was very telling. I think Ambassador Brownback's comments that they fear religious freedom and those that exert religious freedom within their own country. The Chinese Communist Party fears them more than they fear nuclear weapons, that they fear weapons. I mean, this is what Mao referred to as the paper tiger in the 1940s, was weapons. But I think what we're seeing now is ironically to me, it is a paper tiger. You have a country and Xi Jinping and a system, an evil system with the Chinese Communist Party that is a paper tiger. They're weak. They've lost control. And I think one of the reasons that religious freedom poses such a threat is because they can tell the real story of what the Chinese Communist Party is. And the Chinese Communist Party is not the Chinese people. It's not the traditions of China. It's not the culture of China. It's not the religions of China. And I think that poses a huge threat because it exposes them for what they really are.
And Weldon, I think you touched on something really important here. And what you said was echoed in that hearing. And I just have a clip here from that hearing, and I'd like to play it right now.
The CCP is no longer satisfied with just controlling churches and mosques. It now seeks to control the entire inner life of its citizens. Its goal is nothing less than to eliminate all independent faith and replace it with the absolute loyalty to the CCP and Xi Jinping's thoughts.
So Weldon, what is it about the CCP's ideology or its rule or anything else that has made it able to carry out atrocities against religious believers for so many decades now?
Well, I think one thing, you have a completely opaque system. I mean, take what my interest is, which is forced organ harvesting. I mean, killing innocent prisoners of conscience, primarily Falun Gong practitioners throughout China, but also Uyghurs, probably Tibetans, Christians, a lot of those that were represented in the meeting or the hearing today. Why are they such a threat, and why has the Chinese Communist Party gone after them, but really stayed kind of under the radar? Well, I think one thing is, after Deng Xiaoping opened to the West and opened the economy to the West, it remains an opaque system. And Americans traditionally, the last few decades, have taken the policy that we should engage with the Chinese Communist Party, whether that's financially, government, the World Trade Organization, or our medical systems. This thought of engagement to build them up economically and give them legitimacy has actually backfired. I mean, we've seen this the last really 10 years. This has come to light that this policy of engagement with an evil system has largely backfired. And I think that engagement is what allowed a lot of these crimes to go under the radar, whether it's the 1989 massacre of pro-democracy students in Tiananmen Square, whether it's the persecution of Falun Gong, whether it's Tibet. A lot of these have gone under the radar because I think the American people and the American government and American institutions have tried to, in good faith, believe that these would stop if the Chinese Communist Party had some kind of legitimacy, but it's only further exacerbated the horrific human rights abuses that they've carried out.
Okay, so David, your thought.
Can I add to that?
Please.
Dr. Gilcrease is absolutely right, but here's the other X factor, and that is there's never in history been a government that has control of all the information pieces the way they do in China. They can control the internet. They can monitor what you see. They can see where you go, and they track you with facial recognition like has never been seen before. So they can literally put people under house arrest or contain them in ways that has not been possible before on a mass level. So you add that with the points, excellent points that was just made, and I think you have a really toxic mix. So much so to the point that that we know more about what's happening in China than the Chinese themselves do. So it's very difficult for them to gather some kind of momentum to respond when they don't know themselves. Even though they're closest to the problem, they know least about it.
So David, do you think at all the general public is becoming more aware of the brutality and danger the CCP poses to the rest of the world?
I think you have seen a more bipartisan response to this than we saw, let's say, 10 years ago. I think Democrats and Republicans both recognize there's something sinister about this that wasn't maybe seen widely before. I think what is unclear is how they're going to respond, because to really respond properly, we're going to have to make an effort to make sure through breaking through the great firewall of China, making sure the Chinese have information to literally just the facts of what's happening so they can make up their own minds. We're going to have to make sure that we are clear about China's role in the UN and other international bodies where they are setting some of the internet rules and the AI rules and all of these kind of things. So they've been very strategic about infiltrating these world bodies to try to make sure that nobody has the ability to censure them or to change their philosophy, even though they're trying to change everyone else's. So hard to know if we will have the will to respond properly, but I think we must.
Yeah, I think on the point of AI, there's a lot of concerns that within China, as the technology becomes more and more advanced, that the CCP could use it to further repress the Chinese people. So I have another clip here to play for you guys before I ask you the next question.
The Chinese Communist Party fears Falun Gong more than anybody. And I've puzzled at that for the longest time. Why? But it's the most indigenous of all of them. It's like sowing wheat on the Kansas soil. It just grows. They got to 90 million adherents in 7 years. Well, that scares the pants off of the Chinese Communist Party. So we should really be working with them.
So Walden, this next question goes to you because your organization has detailed how the Chinese regime forcibly harvests organs from living Falun Gong practitioners as an execution method. Is there some action the American government can take to stop this shocking crime?
Well, we're trying, we have two pieces of legislation that are currently in the Senate waiting to be voted on against forced organ harvesting within China. I mean, I think this ties back to the whole purpose of this roundtable discussion, which is how are we involved as the United States? How are we involved as U.S. doctors, U.S. medical institutions, U.S. Healthcare systems? And that is that we have largely built up the transplant system within China beginning in the early 2000s after its crackdown on Falun Gong to really be weaponized as a tool of the Chinese regime to kill Falun Gong practitioners, now to kill Uyghurs probably in the last 8 years, and to also profit off of that. So I think this is why the Falun Gong story remains so essential to understand. The basic tenets of Falun Gong, of truth and compassion and tolerance. And also a lot of the teachings, as Ambassador Brownback was alluding to, are really rooted in traditional Chinese culture, the 5,000 years of culture, not the 76 years of Chinese Communist Party regime, which is largely a foreign ideology that has infiltrated almost like a cancer within the Chinese within Chinese society, within the minds of the Chinese. So I do think the Ambassador Brownback really pointing out the importance of Falun Gong as part of the story and how big of a threat they are is because nobody survives forced organ harvesting, but those that have survived to tell their stories, Falun Gong practitioners that have been tortured and dehumanized and humiliated by the Chinese Communist Party, they really, again, get at what the Chinese Communist Party really is better than just about any other group can.
Okay, David, any reactions you have so far?
Well, I think he makes a good point. The Falun Gong, it's an ancient Eastern spirituality which China sees as a grave threat, even though they're very peaceful. There's no chance that it's a political movement, although they certainly have sort of made it a political enemy, you might say. The Chinese Communist Party does not like any ideology which challenges its preeminence. And even though there are only a handful of 5 million Muslims, like Uyghur Muslims, they've been attacking them. The Falun Gong, they're attacking them, even though they're very peaceful. You have 100 million Christians, as I said. It's a massive country with a lot of people, but anything which challenges their ideology is going to come under attack.
Okay, well then we got to wrap up now. So if you have any final thoughts real quick you'd like to share right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my final thoughts are understand who the victims are. I mean, I think if you understand who the victims are, you understand what the Chinese Communist Party is. And, my last few comments was understand forced organ harvesting, because I really do think it tells you about the character or lack thereof of the Chinese Communist Party and its leaders. And again, understand, if you understand the story of the Chinese regime's crackdown on religious freedom, I think you really do understand the spirit and really the evil of the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, okay, well done, David. Such an important conversation today. Thank you for having it with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
The U.S. is greenlighting 2 arms sales to Taiwan in a single week, despite